My name is Irene Gardner. I used to be a Yannick. My mother and dad's name were Paul and Anna Yannick. And we lived on a farm, probably 3 miles out of Delano. Um, Never did much with the farming, and I wasn't much of a farm girl. I lived there and that was about it. Um, I had 2 older sisters, and so by the time I started high school, they were both gone from home. So then I was the only one at home. So then I would take, that was when Bill Wetter had the bus. And he would pick me up about, 3/4 of a mile down to the main road, and then at night I'd have to walk back because he wouldn't drive up on that road then. And that was when Delano had one bus. And then he'd go out farther in the country, out towards St. Mary's Church and out to the 25 and all that way. And that's where the bus would go. So anyway, then I did I better start over there. I attended St. Peter's School, the Catholic school, for my first 8 years. And then the 4 years were at the high school. As far as entertainment was concerned, we liked to go dancing. This was after Kenny and I were married. We were married in 1949, and we would go to Medina on Friday nights for dancing. And then that was the time when the bank was still open until 9 o'clock at night. So at 9 o'clock, I'd go home and get dressed and then go dancing. That's what we liked to do. Like to play cards. The only cards I liked to play was poker, though. We played penny ante. Then, when I started at the bank, I did start in 1946. I was 17 when I graduated, and then that fall I would have been 18. And I was working for the summer at the Delano dry cleaners. And Harry Kuka, who was then cashier of the State Bank of Delano, came over, and he was just bringing some clothes over, and he just asked me, he says, "Would you like to work at the bank?" Well, I had to think a little bit, but it didn't take me too long to make up my mind. I just thought that would be good. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to college in the fall, and that those days you didn't have to know 2 years ahead of time what kind of college you were going to. It wasn't a problem. You could just get in anywhere. So then when I did start at the bank, that was the fall, late summer of 1946. And at that point, I started as a bookkeeper teller. And because the bank was small and you did a little bit of everything. And then I can still remember, even at that time, which you'd never do today, is we'd handwrite loans at the window. Somebody would come in and of course we knew most of our people at that point. And somebody would come in and say, "I'd like $200 for a couple months," or whatever. So you just handwrite that at the window. And it's so different nowadays. By the time I retired, which was in the year 2002, things were so changed. It's just unbelievable. And with all the new technology and all this. But you know, we were small, and at that time, Gertrude Stoltz, I believe she was vice president, I'm not sure anymore. And that was the time that the president wasn't active in the bank. Like now, the presidents usually are active. He was not active, and so that was Don Gilmer at that point. I get a little mixed up sometimes because we had quite a few changes in there. Because the Gilmers bought the bank, and then it sold, and then they bought it back. Then we had, one of the people were Harry Jensen, he was from Minneapolis. And Bill Frank was from Buffalo Lake. He had the bank for a while. And so, like I said, we had a lot of changes in those years. But it was interesting. But then I worked my way up. After that, I would work with, I ended up taking care of human resources, personnel, hiring, just about. And then of course I was always making loans. I started with small loans and then I started making other loans. I remember doing, about 5 years before I quit, I was doing home equity loans. It didn't seem like I was working that long at the bank. It was 51 years, but I did so many different things that it seemed like it was a different place every time. So I was married to Kenny Gardner in 1949, and 2.5 years later I had twin sons, so we had twin sons. They were big babies. Dan was 6'8.5" and Dan was 7'2", and so they were twins. And so then, at that point, I did leave the bank for 4 years. And then when the boys were 4 years old, then I went back to work. I felt I should be home while they were the little kids, so that's what I did. And then now, my one son, Den, is in marketing. He has an office in New Prague and he travels all over the country. In fact, he just came home from Japan now. Then Dan, that was Dan. And Dan is activities director in the Belle Plaine High School, and he's also dean of the middle school. And so that's they don't live that far from here actually. They only live it's about 45 minutes to get to each place. And so that isn't too bad. So I see quite a bit of them, and if nothing else, I talk to them on the phone. And I've got 7 grandchildren. Den's wife's name is Sandy, and Den's wife's name is Brenda. And at that point, when I retired in 2002, that was the same year. I retired the 1st of June. Yeah, the end of June. And then my husband Kenny died on the 21st of August of the same year. So it was kind of a tough situation because when we could have enjoyed retirement together, we didn't have much of it. Because we had July and part of August and that was it. So then after that, then we had already been living in Delano on 3rd Street, 303rd Street South. And up until that time, I stayed there for 4 years after Kenny died. Then I moved right where I live now, which is 251 Kings Point Drive, in a townhouse. And that's because I'm no good at doing anything outdoors, so I had to do something so where I don't have to do any work. I take care of the house and that's about it. So otherwise, I think that's pretty much my whole life. We did a lot of traveling, that I can tell you. We did lots of trips. We went to Manila, China, Hong Kong, all over Europe. We did Alaska, South America. So I was glad we did all that stuff because right now I do little things, but nothing that big anymore. How do I do this?